Hey everybody, it's Chris with Crisco Builds. Today we're looking at an American flag made out of wood strips. There's a lot of ways you can build this. I'm going to build it by just using some old wood that I have. I'm going to paint it. We're not going to stain. I don't have red stain or blue stain. I have red and blue paint, so we're going to use a paint crackle technique. It's going to look great. Black underneath. It's going to show through the cracks. It looks good. It looks aged. One thing I like about the crackle technique, hides mistakes. Plus we're using reclaimed wood, so it's gonna be good. All right, this is a flag build. We're going to be using reclaimed lumber again. This is more leftover stuff from the garage. We're just going to take it apart. We like the holes. We like the distressedness of it because we're going to build that right into the flag. So let's get this apart. Everything's taken apart. I got all the boards that I need. Everything's looking good. We're just going to do a couple things. Hold on a minute. Oh, I found something in the rubble. Fell out of the table. A hand. We've got to do something. All right, let's get back to it. I'm just gonna cut all these boards down to 1 inch. If you don't have a table saw, you don't have to do this, but by cutting it down, you're gonna get a good flat joint to glue together. Your joints are going to match up. They're not going to have a divot. So if you use regular lumber, dimensional lumber is just it's rounded on the edge. So when you piece them together, you're going to have little valleys where they go together. So you have to cut the edges off to make them flat. Or you can just buy 1x2s. In the finishing lumber, so you buy a 1x2 and it's already squared off. They're already at the size you need. You just have to cut them to length and glue them together. It's pretty simple. But if you're going to use leftover stuff or you're going to recycle, you got to cut it down. All right, there's my boards. We're gonna get them cut all to size. The ones that are already short, that's as long as I'm gonna have to be able to go. So they're all gonna be cut down to that same size. Let's get all the nails out of here. And again, that's fine. It's gonna add to the rustic appearance with the crackle paint. So it's gonna be great. Just gonna get all these out, clean them up, cut them all to length. And then we'll get to turning it into a flag by gluing it. Got them all, well, getting ready to finish the last cuts. So again, I do not have bar clamps, nothing large enough to do a tabletop or a flag. So I'm going to use a hillbilly technique. I'm going to take this ratchet strap around it. I'm going to put some blocks on the outer edges to help force the center in. And it's going to be good enough. It's not carrying any weight at any angle that's going to cause it to break. Plus I'm going to put a frame around it. It's going to be just fine the way it is. all glued up. All I'm gonna do is mark where I want the valleys to be as the flag ripples. And these are really up to you, or maybe you can find something online that shows you a natural flow of a flag. There might be some better way to do it. I'm just kind of spacing them out. To be sanding these down, I'm going to use something I've used in the past. This is it's a grinder bit, but it's set up with these metal pieces. I'll show you in a second. The other thing, I'm using a 40 grit disc pad also. It does well, but really to chunk off and hog off a lot of the wood, it's just this bit with chunks of metal in it, and it really hogs off wood fast. I'm just going to follow my lines and then kind of round them out. It's fairly simple. Once we get it to where we want, we just sand it down a little bit, get all those hard edges off, round it out a little more. And it's pretty simple. I think if you have a grinder and you have those, the tools are really easy to use. Now there's a website, Omni something. I'm going to mark it down in the description, where you can go if you want to get the correct dimensions for these. We'll set it up here. It's just going to measure off. Because I'm doing black, and you'll see why I mess up in the future. I'm doing black with the stripes and then blue in the actual the union, the blue part, and there it is. We're gonna change that after we have some failures, but that's the base. Then we just paint on top of it. Well, welcome to the man cave, or I guess craft room. This is where I'll be doing most of my smaller stuff. The hardest part, I guess, in this whole build is gonna be these stars. There's a great, there's a website I'm gonna put down in the comments that actually you put in the dimensions you want. It'll tell you how wide each of the stripes are, how big the the union part of the flag is, how big the stars should be, what they should be spaced like. So everything is set out for you. So it's easy to plan out when you do this yourself. What I've done is the wrong thing. So I put it all together first, then I did all this. If you really want to put waves in it, easiest thing to do is put it all together, mark everything out, and take it apart, paint each one by itself, and then glue it back together. Or a lot of people just mount it to another board, so they're not gluing this together, setting it down, put a couple nails in there, setting the next one up, nailing it all the way down. There's that way too. It's really easy, probably easier than gluing, especially if you don't have clamps. That's the biggest hurdle, is having clamps to do it. But if you have another board, you can just lay them on there and shoot a couple nails in there, or put some screws in, or from the back. There's work involved in either way, or you can just do one. You don't have to do this at all. Just one board, two boards, put them together, then you can just mark out the lines. We're going to use a little tape to make sure we get crisp lines on the flag. But that's it. We're going black. We're going to use a glue technique where we put down glue, and then we're going to use our paint on top of the glue, and as it dries, it's going to crackle. And then the black is going to show through the white and red stripes, and the white will show through on the blue union part. But that's it. We're going to try and measure these out, and you can get a closer look. So like I said, the website will give you the exact dimensions of each star, the exact dimensions between each star, up and down. So it makes it really easy. But I don't have a Glowforge where I can put in a sticker and it cuts all the stars out for me and I can just put it on there and paint it. I had to come up with a way to do it without it, and there were some foam stars that were close to the right size, about 1 inch. So I thought I would put the stars on, put the paint or the glue on, and then paint over top, and then pop the stars off. But that did not work at all. And it looks like I'm just having fun here, but I'm very angry because it is not working. The stars look terrible. They're bleeding through. You can't even really see the outline of any of the stars. So it's trashed. So I just painted it over white. I was gonna try again, but I'm gonna work on the actual stripes now. So I used Titebond, their white multi-purpose glue. It's thicker. You can use their wood glue. It actually works really good. It's not as thick, which is nice, but it's kind of yellow. So when you look through it, it has a yellow hint to it. So I was going to use this white because it's clear. So I'm doing my first white stripe, and it's not going very well. I'm using a heat gun to help dry it quicker. You can actually see the cracks coming in, but this is the point where I'm like, this is not looking right. So I just scrape it off. And what's great about paint, scrape it off and repaint it. I've already done it on the flags, or the stars. Now I'm gonna do it on this first one. I watered down that paint or the glue, and I don't think it worked right, and it bubbled up. So I'm just gonna put straight glue and then paint over top. There are many ways to do this. You can use Elmer's glue, and I don't think it works as well. It dries differently at a different time. So I found that this glue works really good, the wood glue. And there's the cracks. Looks cracked and chipped. I want to keep a sharp, crisp line, so I'm trying to outline it first and then put the glue in there. I think it worked pretty good. I didn't get much bleed over. I got some, I touched it up because where the white and the red mix together, if the white's on top of the red, it's not quite white, and when the white is under the red stands out much more. So you just have to work around it a little bit. See, if I didn't glue it together first and painted each one, I wouldn't have the edge problem. We could have painted them all and then just stuck them together. I'm just going back here and touching up parts that look like they had brush strokes or sponge strokes. I would have liked to use a brush, but all I had were these sponges, but I think a brush might have worked a little better. I just used, well, the white paint I had, it was just old house paint. But for the blue and for the red, I just used acrylic paint you can get at Walmart. With the paint you can go cheaper on. I sprayed on a satin finish to seal it all. So the acrylic paint isn't going to wash off if you try to wipe it down or anything. It's sealed. But so I went with a black on the stars because the white was just not working. It looked too bright with the darkness of the black underneath the stripes. So we went dark. And of course, my camera went into portrait mode instead of landscape because it was straight up and down. So I came up with a new way to put on these stars. I made a stencil, not a stencil. I took those stars, put a nail through it, and made a stamp. So I started stamping them it worked okay. So I got them all in. I'm touching up the spots that are still blue, but they were still a problem. They looked like a child did them. So the edges were not clean enough. Some bulged out. So what is a great way to hide that? Sanding. Sanding them down helps hide a multitude of sins. It makes it look less clear, helps your eye to be distracted. Well, that's that build for now. Next week, I think we're actually going to talk about this table. I've had a lot of questions about this table. Not really the build of the table, but there's so much you can do with OSB. Why spend the extra money when you can, if you like the look, which I do, you can do a lot of things with the way OSB is presented. Take these odd shapes and patterns here, and you can make it something that looks great. So we're going to talk about that next time. And then I think next big full video, we're going to be working on foam. I want to do a foam sword from Adventure Time. I think that is going to be our next full video. I made lots of helmets out of foam. It's easy to do. It's cheap. And if you mess up, you just get another piece. It's not that expensive. Some things can get expensive if you really get into doing this stuff, but mostly a few dollars, you can make something that's going to last a long time, and it's great fun. So until next time, remember, wisdom builds a house, understanding establishes it, knowledge fills it with beautiful and precious treasures. Keep building, keep creating, keep learning. God bless.